All right. As a few people trickle in, we're excited to have all of you to talk about cybersecurity. I posted this on my LinkedIn. I know it's not as sexy of a topic, but when you work in the world we work in, it becomes a much sexier topic, right, Brendan?
Well, it does. Like everybody's excited about AI, but they're not as excited about protecting themselves and doing it safely. But we have to make sure. We got to make sure we're safe. We got to make sure we don't have a lot of when we're implementing AI.
Safe. I know we do run-throughs of this webinar, and the AI without the we were working on our traumatization. So 12:01, to make good use of everybody's time, let's kick this off. So thank you for joining us. This is a topic, full disclosure, I did not love as much as I do now when I was not in this world. But now that I'm in this world and I'm a true believer that knowledge is power, I think cybersecurity should be talked about a lot more than it is. So I'm accompanied with Brendan Howe, our CEO and founder. Hi, Brendan.
Hello, everybody.
Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure.
Just in case you didn't know what we looked like, we are going to walk you through some great information today, but we always like to kick it off with a poll to see where you're at in your cybersecurity journey. So Hugo's going to pop a poll up for us right now. And we want to know, do you feel that your current cybersecurity strategy is effective for AI use? There's no judgment in these polls. It just gives us a better idea as to where you're at. And then the second question is, do you have a clear policy of what AI platforms are allowed at your company? Helps us set the stage. Curious to see these results.
Awesome. Why don't we talk about the agenda a little bit as everybody's answering the poll?
Sounds good. All right. So what do we have on the schedule today? We're gonna set the stage. So we're gonna explain to you why we thought this was an important topic. We've had a lot of success with these webinars. People are really interested about AI. And we wanted to make sure that we talked about what was the most important. We're going to talk about how do we transform. So everybody on this webinar, I'm sure, is interested in bringing AI in and doing it safely. And so we want to walk you through what that safe path looks like. And then we're going to bring it all together for all of you. And we'll finish with a conclusion, what we hope you remember. And we'll do our Kahoot. And the winner will get a $25 gift certificate to a place of their choice, Starbucks, Indigo, whatever lights you up. We like to reward knowledge because we are a teaching organization. So Brendan, why don't you set the stage for us?
Yeah, what do we end up getting on the poll? Any sense of what
I've got it open right now. So 80% of the attendees don't feel that their current cybersecurity strategy is ready, having them ready for effective AI use. And 60% are saying that they do have a clear policy on what AI platforms are allowed in your company. Okay,
so that's good. That's a good way to set the stage. So our goal here on the webinar today is we're going to talk a little bit about the potential problem and the potential risk, and then we're going to give you ways to deal with that risk so that you can get to a place where you feel much more confident about your cybersecurity strategy. Give you a bit of a sense of what's happening out in the world right now. The world is a crazy place. We're seeing the number of, a bunch of research said number of projected cyber attacks powered by AI in 2025 was this year is 28 million. So expecting 28 million different attacks powered by AI. 87% of organizations report experiencing AI-enabled attacks this year. Most of the phishing attempts that we see coming through are AI generated. So AI is being used against us. We're looking to leverage AI ourselves, but we're also seeing the marketplace that it's being used against us. The other thing is we have to think about our humans. We have to think about our people. 95% of data breaches last year were tied to human error. 81% of organizations worry about sensitive data leaks as a result of the generative AI tools that they use. And here's a really big one to me. 1 in 5 breaches that are out there are being linked to shadow AI use. So 1 in 5 breaches are because people are using AI that's not allowed to be used in an organization. It's crazy. It's a crazy number.
That's a big one. If you don't own the messaging.
It is. And if you think about even, technical people are supposed to be really smart, right, Anouk? Like you think this has got to be the non-technical people making all these mistakes. Well, you hear this story? Samsung developers leaked trade secrets onto ChatGPT. So technical people put a whole bunch of proprietary code onto ChatGPT and made it available for the rest of the world. So it's everybody across the board. It's not just non-technical people, it's technical people. And there's these risks all over the place. So let's kind of take a step back and look at, we all want to transform. We're all looking at AI as this transformational technology, or I think a lot of us want to transform. I don't want to speak for everybody, but a lot of us want to transform, and we want to use AI and say, okay, how can we really change our business? How can we change how we're doing things? How can we change the lives of our staff? How can we change the lives of our clients or our customers? And AI's got this huge power. So what we like to do with all of our AI talks and when we're working with clients is to go back to what's the framework for AI adoption, and how do we make sure that we transform? Well, there's 4 things I want to take you through, and because of course we're all Blue Jays fans, we've put this in the context of the Blue Jays. So here's how to build AI success, Blue Jays edition. So number 1, we got to have the foundation. So the foundation for our Blue Jays in their almost success, short 2 outs, was the roster construction. Right? Who's on the roster? Big signing yesterday, by the way. Awesome. I'm super pumped about it. So we have the foundation from a Blue Jays perspective of who's on the roster. From an AI perspective, our foundation is data. Where's our data? How's it organized? How are we working with it? Is it on premise? Is it in the cloud? That sort of stuff. That's a foundational point. So as we're looking to implement AI and transform with AI, we got to make sure we're thinking about our data as a foundational layer. Then from a structure perspective, our Blue Jays focused on defense. They focused on contact. They focused on pitching. That was how they're playing. And so they clearly communicated to their team, this is how we're going to play. From an AI perspective, we want to communicate to our team too. And so we need to make sure our structure is around security and governance. And so that's really our topic today. So we had we've done webinars. We've done webinars on our 2 other areas, our chat bots, which are like the level 1 hitting singles, Ernie Clements up and hitting tons of singles and stuff like that. And then we've done webinars on agents, which is really where you can hit home runs and automate huge processes. And we've focused a lot on the chat bots and the agents. And today we really want to focus on that structure, that security and governance, and that's what we're talking about today. Anouk, I think you were out in Winnipeg with a client, and you were helping them. They're looking to hit some home runs with agents, and you were helping them on the security and governance side of things as well.
You got it. As Brendan was mentioning, and we'll talk about it a little more in depth throughout the webinar, the people component, if you were to ask me, is probably the most important one. We can put structure and strategy in place. If we don't have players, to support that safe path to AI adoption, it becomes very difficult to implement it. So last week I flew to Winnipeg for a few days and helped launch for one of our clients their first agentic worker. And so it was very exciting. We did it at a company-wide meeting in person, and then I ran a couple prompting workshops for their team. And ironically, the prompting workshops didn't include tech. I used 3M boards, and we went old school, and it was fantastic for team building. And we practiced building prompts. And what I did for both sessions, and I kicked it off with a cybersecurity component. which are some of the elements we're going to talk about today, to educate people on why it's so important to follow ethical use of AI. So great experience. I'm happy to share that with all our attendees. Definitely the part of my job that lights me up.
All right, so now that you've shared that story, now that maybe we've scared people a little bit, they've been vulnerable with us in terms of their concerns about cybersecurity. So why don't we talk about what folks should do? I think we've got 6 steps.
You got it. Keep it simple.
What's step number 1?
So when you're talking about AI adoption, you want to walk before you run. And so when you're talking about an AI policy, that for us is the foundational pillar of your AI strategy. So why do you want to have an AI policy? You want to have an AI policy because you are creating the rules for your AI environment. So the first thing you want to do is set the purpose and scope, right? So what's the foundation? You want to understand what are you trying to achieve with AI, and you want to have a vision and mission statement within it. You also want to talk about the alignment, right? So you want to align it to your company values. What are the guiding principles of AI within your organization, right? You want fairness and bias. You want to be sure that it's being used in an ethical way, and you want to walk people through that. The third point is governance and oversight. So we recommend having a responsible AI committee. So you want a tool vetting process, right? So how are people asking to use AI tools? When people, even internally, but we help set up clients so that there are processes and forms that people can fill out if they want to use a new AI tool, so it can be properly vetted and it can build accountability. The usage guidelines and guardrails, huge from a people component standpoint. You want to understand what are the guardrails you've put in place, and then explain it to your team to get the buy-in. I think a lot of policies are created and they're just circulated as an email. They're kind of half read. With your AI policy, make sure that the guidelines and guardrails are communicated in a team-wide meeting. And the fifth is also very, very important, which is to monitor, measure, and evolve. You don't write an AI policy and then say, oh, it's good, I've written the AI policy, we're good to go. Our recommendation is you're checking it quarterly, right? You're updating it, you're using the AI committee, you're using your technological partner. You want to make sure that you're always up to date because AI is transforming every minute. As we're presenting right now, there are new developments going on. So that would be, in my opinion, in our opinion, the foundation to your AI cybersecurity strategy. We're very data oriented at Techify, and we want to make sure that when we present, we give you some data so that you understand why we put these strategies together. So 25% of organizations with a fully integrated AI government, only 25%, excuse me, of organizations have already an AI governance program. And 63% of breached organizations don't have an AI governance program. So a lot of times what we're noticing with people who start to work with us, they do it in a reactive manner. So they haven't put in the right policy in the guardrails, something happens, they get scared, and then they reach out to us. Be ahead of the game, be proactive, right? You can avoid a lot of those headaches and sleepless nights. And then the last point is 34% of organizations audit for unsanctioned AI use. That's also a really big one. Employees can have a fear around AI, and if you're not setting that AI policy, they might be using a tool and not sure if they should tell you about it, but they're opening your environment up. So be sure that you have an environment that's also able to audit and monitor so that there are no tools that you're not approving being released within your environment.
Yeah, the thing that's coming out of this for me, Anouk, is when we communicate this is what's acceptable, this is not what's acceptable, we lower risk. And when we monitor that and we make sure that we're checking, then yes, that's how we can identify when there's issues. Natalie just popped up a question and said, who's monitoring for this? Is it Techify monitoring for it? Yes, we have the capability to be able to see what's being used, what's not being used. There are ways that people can hide their usage. It's not perfect. You have to start from clearly identifying what's available, but you can block certain types of usage, and you can block the ability of people to access your data from unsanctioned tools.
You got it. So a clear AI policy, it's going to keep your business safe. Without it, AI can cause problems. It can hurt your reputations. It starts at the top. So one takeaway is if you don't have an AI policy, please leave this webinar and feel a sense of urgency. And remember that it's your message to deliver. You don't want your team to be using it in any which way they want. You're setting those guardrails up. What's our next one, Brendan?
Well, and I just wanted to like one just process related note. Please, if folks have questions, pop them in the chat like Natalie did. The more the merrier. Questions, comments, please put them in. So step 2, here's where we get into security permissions and access. So this is super important. We need to have a really strong foundation in access and permissions. We had a client who I won't say the name. They will remain nameless. They were about a year ago super excited about Copilot, and they were like, "Oh, I want this Copilot thing. It's fantastic." And so what the IT person at this company did is he turned on a bunch of Copilot licenses, and he was so excited he calls over the COO, who's a partner in the organization, and he says, "Hey, look what I could do with Copilot." And he starts asking about information, and Copilot goes and finds information that he's not really supposed to have access to. And the COO was, whoa, hold on a second. We're not supposed to have access to that. And shut down everything. He said, turn off Copilot. We're not doing this AI thing. No way, no how. 100% blocker. And so we want to transform, but so often we can get into these hurdles that if we don't do it right, it ends up getting shut down. And what we see a lot of the time is when we're looking at things like SharePoint and permissions. If an organization turns on generative AI like it turns on a Copilot, and you have your security permission structure isn't set up properly and is not reviewed in advance, maybe somebody that's working on the front lines doesn't know that the folder permissions aren't quite right on the accounting folder. And they don't know that if they click through to that folder that they'd have access to something they're not supposed to have access to. But as soon as you turn on generative AI, Copilot is going to go through and find it. And it's going to say, well, you've told me that I have these security permissions and I'm allowed to access this information. And so if you don't review those permissions and don't make sure that they're nailed, that they're modern permission set up, that they haven't just been migrated from a file server, there's a whole bunch of best practices in terms of setting up to keep you safe. The other bit here is the actual the access to your environment. And if in the background of this image we see some pretty old stuff, if somebody's environment is still using legacy authentication, so legacy authentication, here's the best way to understand that. If you have an on-premise server, if you have something in a back room that is still taking up power, putting out heat, that sort of thing, you're using legacy or not modern authentication. We want folks to be using Entra. We need to be able to use modern authentication to protect the identity and protect access. And here's why 97% of organizations that suffered AI-related breaches, they lack the proper access control. And if we look at our identity, if we implement security solutions and AI-driven security solutions, they'll prevent 90% of cyber attacks. And things like multi-factor authentication can reduce unauthorized incidents by 40%. If you add conditional access on top of that, conditional access is essentially you can't access this. You can't access my email account. You can't use my user and password unless you're on my computer, unless you're resident in Canada, unless you meet these different requirements. That conditional access superpowers MFA being multi-factor authentication. So it really, really important principles around access. And so we're gonna get to different different tools and or different platforms. But if you think about if you're using if you're accessing, say, with ChatGPT, and you're not using single sign-on, and you're not using your Microsoft-based authentication, and somebody has a separate username and password, the security is going to be much lower.
And just a quick point to add to that, Brendan. I think what's really interesting about what you're talking about is it's all on the back end. And so a lot of times people get really excited about a tool, and data is, the drug of AI. It doesn't function without it. So it's for people to not necessarily think about it. It's not with intent. It's just a lot of back end set up to keep you secure and compliant.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, we all know that like one breach can erode years of trust, can hurt reputation, that can cost tons and tons of money. But for some reason, there's something holding us back sometimes from improving cybersecurity. So if you improve it, this gets into step 3, is where we talk about that sort of identity and the MFA policies, and you build on that. You make sure that you've got the security permissions, and then you've got the identity-based security, and you have that those multi-factor authentication policies, and you can really reduce the number of issues that you have. And speaking to the point that we just made, if you look at here are a couple other stats. One, I want to point out $670,000 average cost incurred by an organization when they experience a breach. Right. So by having some more focus to this, making sure we're setting up identity and access based on modern security, based on cloud-based security. Think about Microsoft has invested billions and billions of dollars in security, and you can leverage that as a small or mid-sized business. You can now have enterprise-grade security. You don't have to be an enterprise to have enterprise-grade security. But if you're not leveraging cloud-based security, if you're not looking at things like Entra, like mobile device management and compliance policies, if you're not put in place multi-factor authentication with conditional access and that sort of stuff. And I'm not trying to throw a bunch of jargon at you, and I'm just trying to establish some terms and some things you should think about and say, okay, do we have this stuff, right? It's like a checklist for identity protection. Are we using Microsoft as our foundation for identity? Do we have multi-factor authentication across the board? Do we have conditional access in place? Do we have monitoring for risky sign-ins and for things that are kind of unusual behavior? And that's where we can really secure ourselves, because for a few extra bucks, you can protect yourself from it costing $670,000. So why do we do this? Identity is the perimeter. People are working all over the place, right? We have people working remote, on site, all over the place. So we can't protect anymore with just a firewall. So we need to make sure that only the right people access the right data at the right time. And the foundation of that is identity-based access, and it starts with MFA.
And when you think about AI, and this will lead into step number 4, AI now really has the power to be much more powerful when it comes to identity. So for example, I was talking to a girlfriend of mine in LA who works in tech, and she got a random call the other day, and the first thing she said is, I wondered if they were trying to steal my voice and my identity. Because we're starting to think that way. So phishing emails are really the way threat actors are trying to reach out. So the identity protection from a cybersecurity standpoint is more important than ever. Which
Absolutely.
leads us to point number 4. All right, so you want to think about platforms and licensing. People often say, if it sounds too good to be true, it maybe is too good to be true. I think this very much applies to this. If you are getting free licenses for AI tools, there's a reason they're free. They're free because they're using your data to feed their large language model. You're giving them more access. So when you look at chat, so here we support clients with different tools, but the dominant ones being Copilot and Chat Plus. If you're using a free version of ChatGPT, you are letting your information go into the large language model, right? We highly recommend that a free tool not be allowed. That is part of your AI policy. You can set up, so what we've done here is we have chat paid business licenses that were set up by our data and AI team. There's very strong cybersecurity vetting. So make sure that when you are selecting your tools, you're looking into the paid version and you're understanding how they can impact your environment. We do that for our clients, but if you do not have someone who's doing that, you need a second set of eyes to make sure that you're not opening the floodgates. And what happens a lot, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just was going to inject a story, but I didn't want to interrupt you until you're done. Go ahead.
No. Well, it's a quick story that'll lead into yours. What I find really interesting in my line of work is how often I sit in a boardroom, and people will just say, "Oh yeah, I just use chat, but I don't put company info." That's the first thing they say. But you're using a free AI tool on a corporate computer in a non-safe way. So I always try to just say gently, I understand you're not putting a company proposal, but you still shouldn't be using a free AI tool. So I'm sharing this because I see that a lot in organizations, and people think that just because they're not putting company data, it's okay. You don't want those tools on your computers. Passing it back to you, Brendan.
Yeah, and I think, look, I was going to tell a story about I was in an organization that had a couple hundred staff and doing a presentation to their executive team on AI. And I was taking them through some of this stuff, and they're like, yeah, we have an AI policy, and we tell everybody what's acceptable use, and we've kind of say, hey, yeah, you shouldn't use free tools. And then I said, so how many licenses have you rolled out to your team? Well, first I said, hey, are people using generative AI? Yeah, I think people are using generative AI all over the place. They're asking it questions and asking it to help. And then I said, well, how many licenses have you rolled out for in order to do this? And they said, well, not very many. So then the question naturally went to, so then do you think people are using the paid version or the free version? And they had this aha moment. They're like, people are using the free versions all over the place. And it immediately led to a memo, led to them saying, okay, we're going to license, and we're going to provide that sort of licensing support for people so that they can make sure they were safe and they were using it properly and that sort of thing.
You got it. 100%. So yeah, so with the right platforms and licensing, you're not looking at it as just an IT decision, it's a business decision. And to add to what Brendan just said, we are recommending paid secure licenses, yes, but that's step one. You want to set it up in a strategic way for your company. So our data and AI team set us up with paid licenses, and we have to go through as per our AI policy when we apply to have access to a tool. We explain our use case and why we want to use it, but it's all controlled by the data and AI and cybersecurity team. So there's a central hub. You don't want, even if it's a paid license, you don't want people just getting it on their own, just sending a note to IT. You can get also bulk licenses with some of these tools and ask questions to make sure that you're finding a solution where you can access the data of usage as well, because that's part of the transformation when it comes to AI, is understanding how people are using the tools.
That makes sense. Okay, step 5, we got 2 to go. So step 5 is information protection. And so what we're really talking about here is we're talking about there's more advanced policies that you can put in place to protect your data that are data loss prevention policies. You can do sensitivity labeling. You can have these data loss prevention policies, which basically identifies when data is confidential. And it's super important to have this in place. And this is where we get into we get into a more advanced type of data protection and looking at auditing your policies against best practices and thinking about, okay, as part of my AI readiness, some of the best practices for AI readiness are putting in place proper data loss prevention policies and sensitivity labeling. And if you're looking at that in the front end and saying, do we have this in place right now? It'll surface up as part of your AI plan, as part of your AI roadmap and strategy. Hey, we need to make sure that we have this in place so that the data doesn't leak out the door, so that data isn't readily available in more than what you want it to. Right? At the end of the day, data is your competitive edge. What have you created as a business? You've created data. Right. And so we've got to safeguard that sensitive information. If not only from a business competitive standpoint, there's a compliance standpoint. If your data goes out the door, that can be a big deal and a big cost to your business.
And data, we use data here a lot to make our decisions, right, and to build our strategies. So companies feeling like their data isn't secured properly is a risk on numerous different levels. So I think we're getting close to our last one. Here it is, training and oversight. This is my favorite piece. I'm a people dominant person. What does that look like? We can put together all of the structure and we can have a great strategy, as I said in the beginning. But if it is not followed and we do not get the buy-in from our teams, from the humans, it's not going to be effective, right? So what does that look like? Again, when you're launching an AI policy, explain it to the team. Have some fun. Today we're going to do a Kahoot. Do an activity so that you're sure there's some retention. Create a sense of importance in regards to what is the consequence if you don't follow suit, right? So I've worked with organizations where if you are using an AI policy, an AI tool that is not approved, you can be instantly dismissed. That's how seriously they take it, right? So you have to understand and share with your team, what is the HR risk if you do not follow this procedure? You want to have oversight, right? You want to be able to, and Natalie was asking earlier, how is it being monitored? We do that for our clients so we would understand if there was behavior that was out of norm and an AI tool was trying to be downloaded. But if you don't have access to oversight, people can tell you they're doing something and, oh yeah, I'm not using a free version, but you don't know truly. So you want to set yourself up with your tech strategy to be sure that you can catch behavior that is not abiding by your AI policy and your overall compliance. I think,
and I just throw in a point about monitoring. There's a good kind of discussion going on in the chat, and Natalie's talking about the vulnerability of agents or the vulnerability of chatbots. Anything that we use technology-wise could be a vulnerability at some point, right? We always see these notices that go out and say vulnerability was identified within Windows and vulnerability was identified within X application. And on an ongoing basis, vulnerabilities are found. So could we ever say, well, a chatbot or agentic AI is not a vulnerability? It can be a vulnerability. And so part of that oversight is it's so important to have ongoing monitoring, so that you're picking up, is there something weird happening in the environment? Is there some sort of activity that's going on that does not seem normal? Because if you've got really good monitoring of what your AI agents or the chatbots, what they're doing, then you can surface those sort of issues, and then you can if you detect them, then you can respond, and you
Absolutely.
can make sure. And I just thought that's an important add to, Anouk, you're talking about the people side, and I think there's also a really important monitoring piece on the just the strict technology side, and Natalie's bringing up some good vulnerabilities and some good questions about risk.
Yeah, and I would say to share kind of more of a personal fact, since I was a little girl, I don't like people telling me what to do. It's just not my happy place. Brendan deals with it.
I've noticed.
So when you have people who are very driven, and I would call myself an entrepreneur, right? Logic and facts make it very easy for me to follow process, right? So when you're rolling out AI transformation, when you empower people with the knowledge of why you're doing it, it will often make it a lot easier for them to want to do it because they understand it. So I'm sharing a personal kind of use case for myself, but I think a lot of others could relate to that. So 44, we're going to end this one with a fact. 47% of organizations say AI governance is a top 5 strategic priority for them. That's important. We would love to see it at, what would you say, Brendan, 99, 100? I think, unfortunately, in our line of work, Brendan talks to a lot of CEO groups. He'll get calls where people are saying, oh my God, and it's in a panic state because they didn't put the right guardrails in place. So educate so that you don't have to be reactive. So governance is the leadership shield against chaos and risk. So as CEOs, owners, I know a lot, and we have some on this webinar, you often want to feel like you have a pulse on what's going on everywhere, and you want to be able to sleep at night, right? So when you have clear oversight, you're able to roll out agentic tools in a way that you feel that you feel safe and it's being monitored. Without the governance, it can become a costly tool, and it can end up with, it can create some costly surprises for you and your team. So we want to just make sure that you approach it from a very proactive manner. All right, so what do we want you to remember today? Let's bring it all together. And let's talk about your AI safety playbook for AI success. So make sure you have a clear AI policy. If you do not have someone to support you on that, that's what we do. We live and breathe it. You want to make sure you have security permissions and access set up. So think about it as the back end. You want to create that lockdown on a folder basis as it applies to your data sources. You want to have identity and MFA policies. The cybersecurity landscape right now is very focused on identities. So put the proper procedures in place to keep yourself safe. Number 4, we want platforms and licensing that are paid versions, but you still want to run them through your IT team or IT partner to make sure that they are in fact safe for your environment. Number 5, information protection. You want to keep your data safe at all times because our data is a superpower. It gives us a lot of ammunition to make the right strategic decisions for our firms. And last but not least, number 6, training and oversight, the human piece. It is not the least important. I would put it right up there at the top. Make sure that you get buy-in from everyone and they understand why you're putting these measures in place. Cybersecurity can be seen as a pain by staff, like, oh, why are you making me authenticate? When you educate, people all of a sudden are much more excited to follow the processes and also believe in the processes. So the training and oversight piece is extremely important.
Yeah, one of the things that I'd like everybody to take away from this too is cybersecurity is an enabler for AI adoption. So when you put the structure of security and governance in place, it allows you to move faster. It allows you to go and implement AI. So often I hear the stories about internal, like corporate IT departments, and they say, hey, that's basically where AI goes to die. Because somebody's like, I want to use all this AI, and then they go to the IT department, and the IT department's like, whoa, security issue, this, you can't do it. And they put the brakes on it. And what should be happening is let's put the structure in place. Let's put the guardrails. Let's make sure we do these 6 things. And if we do these 6 things, then we can go on and we can move on to transforming and really put the pedal to the metal, go all gas, and we don't have to have the brakes because we have this sort of structure in place and we can keep moving along. Last thing before we get to a little bit of fun is just want to talk a minute about how we help businesses. So Anouk mentioned a few things as we go along. For those that are not, I see a lot of familiar names. I was going to say familiar faces, but familiar names on the webinar. For those that aren't familiar with us as a company, with what Techify does, there's essentially 3 things that we do. That really where we focus all our energy and attention. One is AI transformation the right way. So the right way is a lot of the stuff we're talking about today. How do we secure it properly? How do we enable people change? How do we help people along that guidance, that path of transformation? How do we make sure that for example, people don't get sucked into the snake oil salesman type of stuff that's out there about AI, where people are trying to take advantage of how folks want to implement AI and want to transform. That's a lot of what we do. Our cybersecurity services make sure that we provide cybersecurity that never sleeps. And our underlying approach, what we've been doing for the last 17 years, is making sure that folks have strategic, proactive support that saves them money. Right? It saves you so much money when you don't have technical problems to begin with. If you're proactive and you don't have the technical problems, saves you way more money. If you're making sure the security is tight and you don't have a security breach, it saves you a whole bunch of more money. If you can enable the productivity of your team, it saves you a ton of money. So that's all the type of stuff that we focus in on and that we do. If you're interested in AI help, a lot of folks are interested in figuring out, okay, how can we do this? Stuff that we do, we walk through with people their AI readiness. We look at their environment and we look at their policies. We'll help you with your security. We'll help you with your people, training your people, and we'll help you develop a long-term roadmap. And there's not many IT companies out there that are getting into the world of AI. There's a lot of folks that are staying in the sort of infrastructure and cybersecurity world and not guiding people on how to use AI and how to enable AI success. So if you're trying to figure out, is your business AI ready? We have a way that we can help you. We've got an AI readiness assessment that will take folks through that will, we can get on a call, we can ask you a standard set of about 20 questions, and we'll help you figure out if your cybersecurity is ready, if your infrastructure is ready, what the use cases are for your industry. We'll talk through, a lot of people want to talk about Copilot versus ChatGPT. A lot of folks want to talk about what agents can do. So if you're interested in this assessment, there's a QR code. We'd be happy to talk about any of those subjects to you and see where you're at and help you sort of guide. Everybody's at a different place on their AI journey. And so what we see our role is to help guide you along that AI journey to really help you transform.
100%. Thanks, Brendan.
Is it time for some fun?
It's Kahoot time.
Right.
This is always the big hit in our webinars. So for those of you who have not done Kahoot, I encourage you to, it's actually quite easy to do it on your phone, but you can do it on your computer as well. Go to kahoot.it, kahoot.it, and throw in the game pin. Put in a fun name. That makes it more exciting. And we'll just ask the winner to tell us who they really are at the end so that we can make sure we get them a prize. So we're going to test your knowledge and how well you remembered what Brendan and I talked about today.
All right, so everybody should be going to kahoot.it or using the QR code there, right?
Correct. Oh, I love it. One quick point is the quicker you answer, the more points you're going to get. So if you answer right, but somebody answers it quicker, you're going to fall behind. So answer it as quickly as you can. Go birds.
Oh, do we have ChatGPT joining? No way.
I love this. We do these Kahoots at all our monthly team meetings, and you should see some pretty funny names popping up.
Oh,
we're going to give it another 60.
Yeah, whoever put Go Jays is just automatic winner. I've decided.
All right. So for those of you, if you're still signing up, if you need a couple seconds, let us know in the chat. If not, we'll get started. If you sign up within the next 10 seconds, you're going to pop in anyways as Hugo gets it going. Hugo, you ready? Let's kick it off. All right, Kahoot 360. AI Without the AHH, November Executive Edition. What was the projected number of global AI-powered cyber attacks in 2025? 28 million, 75 million, 12 million, or 45 million? $28 million. Next one. Got chat in the lead. What percentage of breaches are linked to unapproved AI tool usage, aka shadow AI? 1 in 5, 1 in 3, 1 in 10, or 1 in 2? See. 1 in 5. Half of the answers got it right. Okay, ChatGPT still in the lead. Next question, third one. Which of the following is not one of the 4 stages or pillars of building AI success? Data as the foundation, security and governance, chatbots. They are all part of building AI success. Let's see. So, ChatGPT in the lead. All of them are part of building AI success. Fourth question, what percentage of organizations actually have a fully integrated AI governance program? 12%, 25%, 20%, or 35%? I love the pink brain. This is an interesting statistic. 25. All right, next one. I think we got a couple left. AI-based authentication systems reduce unauthorized access incidents by what percentage? 30%, 50%, 20%, or 40%? So it's interesting how they're saying AI-based authentication systems. We're now starting to notice a lot of cybersecurity focused really on the AI. 40%. Okay, so we've got one last question. So let's see what the scoreboard is at. Chat's winning. I like the fire icon. So, pardon me, 2 more questions. Which of the following is not one of the 6 steps of AI safety playbook? A clear AI policy, identity and MFA policies, platforms and licensing, or all of them are steps? See. Nice work, everyone. All of them are steps. Chat's still in the lead. TH in second. All right, this is going to take us to our winner. What is the average cost incurred when organizations experience a breach? 500,000, 670,000, a million, or 850,000? All these amounts are pretty high, not gonna lie. 670,000. All right, let's see who our winners are. Third place, we've got me. Not actually me. Second place, and first place, ChatGPT consistently. Nice work, chat. Let us know who you are in the chat, and Hugo will set you up with the $25 gift card that you wish to have.
I want to just have an honorable mention for 4th place for Go Jays, just because they're obviously a Blue Jays fan. So they deserve an honorable mention.
Yes, I agree, and I still think our Blue Jays are winners in their own way. Made us proud.
All right.
Nicholas
So
is our
just,
winner. Nice work, Nicholas.
just before we end up, oh, nice work, Ed. Good to see you. Good to see a neighbor winning something. Ed's just down the road from us here. So you are going to be asked for some feedback from this webinar. Feedback is our fuel to get smarter every day. So we consistently ask for feedback across everything that we do, and the more feedback we get, the more we can kind of shape our future webinars. So please make sure, as the poll pops up here, that before you pop off, you give us some feedback. And if you have any, we had lots of really good questions in the chat. I'm not sure if we Ed says we can walk over his prize. It's funny. It's a good little walk. Or maybe we'll meet you over in Bond Park, Ed. We like to walk. We like to walk over there too. I think we addressed, Anouk, all the questions that were in the chat. There's been a good sort of discussion back and forth on a few different things. But I don't know if there's any closing thoughts you wanted to add, or any other questions you wanted to address.
I would just say the conversation never ends here. So AI is in constant motion. We're here to support organizations as they power themselves with tech. So if you have questions, if you have webinar topics you want to hear about, we create these for you. So let us know. You can connect with us on LinkedIn. You can send us an email, whatever works for you. We love the feedback. We're feedback driven, and it's important for us to understand what everybody's curious about. We work in it day after day. So on my end, I just want to say thank you for your time. I know the pace of Toronto, so we appreciate you taking the hour in your day. And Serge, congrats again on winning the Kahoot.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day. Bye.